The Wild Hunt are the main antagonists of The Witcher 3, but did you know they were supposed to have a much bigger role in the main story? Well, welcome to another Witcher 3 video by me, The Witcher George, as I break down the Wild Hunt, from their introduction in the books to their demise at the end of The Witcher 3, and explain why perhaps their story seemed a little short in The Witcher 3. So in today's video, I'm going to explain a brief backstory on the Wild Hunt, just so you guys have a general idea of what their story is in the books, Witcher 1, Witcher 2, Witcher 3, just to give you an idea of what we actually got, and then I'm going to share some information on the cut content in The Witcher 3, and how their role was actually much bigger originally. So, stay tuned for the video guys, thank you for watching, and let's get into it. The Wild Hunt were first introduced in the Witcher books, as spectral riders and a mere legend, a story that children are told at night to frighten them, but over the course of the books become a very real threat to Geralt and Ciri. Ciri in fact becomes captured by them, well actually by the NL elves in their world, as the NL desired back the power of the Elder Blood, and their ruler, or I should say ruling class, or the NL elves in general, planned to create a child with her through their king Alberon. However, Ciri managed to escape, but only narrowly, after a brief fight with Eredin, the leader of the Wild Hunt, which is essentially Alberon's interdimensional or interplanetary military division, which essentially they couldn't go to other worlds because the Gate Between Worlds was closed. They wanted back the Elder Blood, then they could reopen the Gate Between Worlds and get back to invading and enslaving everyone. So after this escape, not much is told to us about the situation in the world of the NL, but in the Witcher games, this foe reappears and, well, we learn a little bit more. Chronologically, the Wild Hunt actually appeared before the events of The Witcher 1, when they went to the Isle of Avalon and kidnapped Yennefer, causing Geralt to hunt them down with the School of the Viper Witchers and trade his life for hers, ultimately escaping with the help of Ciri and arriving at Kaer Morhen, where The Witcher 1 begins. And he's also lost his memory and Triss, does some bad stuff. Bad Triss. Eredin appears in his spectral form during that game, and more of the backstory between Geralt and the Hunt is revealed in The Witcher 2. But where the Wild Hunt truly enter the Witcher games is in The Witcher 3. In The Witcher 3, the Wild Hunt have a much larger role, serving as the main antagonists. We find out that during all of Geralt's adventures in the games, they have been pursuing Ciri, and Geralt has visions of the Wild Hunt at the start of The Witcher 3, and then, well, they chase him and Yennefer very early on in the game. There are multiple encounters with them throughout the game after this, as Geralt tries to reach Ciri before them, and ultimately it ends with a battle at Kaer Morhen, then the destruction of the Wild Hunt generals, and finally Eredin himself. So now you understand what we got in the games and books, let me tell you about what we didn't get. First of all, the Wild Hunt was supposed to attack Novigrad after Kaer Morhen instead of, or perhaps before Skellige, with work partially being completed on a destroyed Novigrad main square. I find this piece of information particularly interesting as it reminds me of a different video I made quite recently discussing the lore surrounding Radovid, particularly on the political intrigue regarding Emir and Radovid and how both seek to control Novigrad, as it was an incredibly important city in the Northern Realms. I always felt as if this plot point was not nearly developed enough in The Witcher 3, despite how great that game is, and if you imagine they had developed that political plot more, past just Radovid being crazy and so he must be killed, and, well, Emir never manages to attack Novigrad or seemingly many places actually during the events of The Witcher 3, but Novigrad could have just been a great centre of political intrigue in the game. I mean, here's a question guys. After the first quest with the King of Beggars, does he have any kind of significant role, past just hanging around with the Big Four? The same for most of them. That whole area is amazing, but you have to admit there is a feeling of kind of rushed points of development with a lot of the characters, and perhaps that's just because of the sheer size of the game. There was a lot they had to fit in with Velen and Novigrad and Skellige, then eventually Toussaint and, well, just Kaer Morhen and everything. There's so much in the game, so it's hard to develop everyone, but you can see what I mean. But anyway, imagine that the Wild Hunt attacked as well with all that development, with our character Geralt dealing with all the criminal underbelly of the city, whilst balancing the Northern Realms and Nilfgaardian rulers' desires. Novigrad could have been such a massively significant area to the game if these plans had been fully realised. Next, Gels was supposed to be a proper Wild Hunt general, present in a similar capacity to Caranthir and Imlerith, with his own armour heavily implied to be this armour that never appeared in the game but appears as concept art, Instead, we only ever saw the character briefly during our quest with Avallac'h. However, despite this change, which is relatively minor, but the largest change to the Wild Hunt, past simply just removing quests, was undoubtedly what happened to the characters. I hate to say it, guys, because you know how much I love these games and how great I think The Witcher 3 is, but if you compare a character like Eredin to Detlef, or Gaunter, or Olgierd, or Syanna from the expansions, you have to agree he's pretty bland. He just kind of pops in, looks menacing, then leaves. He doesn't really discuss his motivations or even really show them. That's the same for Caranthir and Imlerith. Caranthir is supposed to be this incredible mage and navigator, genetically crafted by Avallac'h over generations, and he barely does anything. He just tracks Ciri, fights Geralt, and then after a fight at the end of the game, dies. We hear all this interesting stuff about him, but we don't really see any of it. I mean, Imlerith is arguably the most developed out of all the Wild Hunt generals, and that's saying something. I mean, Eredin or Imlerith, but it's sort of like, at least Imlerith kind of does something. He kills Vesemir, and then he gets killed. I mean, that's about as much as he does. He destroys the gate at the start of the Battle of Kaer Morhen, but I mean, there was this whole cut quest line surrounding Bald Mountain as well, but that's something for a different video. So what I'm saying is we don't really learn about any of their individual motivations, and whatever we do learn seems to just be sort of basic. They're just following Eredin, or they're trying to get Ciri to destroy the world and invade everywhere. Now, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the characters for what they are, the faceless villains of the game and a threat to push the story along, but they could have been so much more. The books show Eredin as more politically active. It's speculated he poisoned his king Auberon with an aphrodisiac that would help his king sleep with Ciri, as the king basically just saw her as an animal and couldn't bring himself to do it. There was a lot of obvious competition with him and Avallac'h too, and Eredin had active contempt for Ciri, as did Avallac'h. But in the games we get a little of this, but it's far less grey. When Eredin poisons Auberon in the games, it's clear how intentional it was. He literally says, "Long live the king," and kills him. It's very like, okay, he really wanted to do that. And Avallac'h in the games is basically just a good guy, despite really not seeming so in the books. These sudden character shifts confused a lot of fans, and something interesting to note is that we know that CD Projekt Red wanted to have much larger questlines involving them, and more encounters, and I've heard rumours that ultimately Avallac'h was supposed to be a sort of villain at the end of The Witcher 3, hence Eredin's speech declaring he tricked both Geralt and himself, which is still in the game, and would actually make far more sense because Eredin's like, "Oh, Avallac'h has tricked us both," and then you go and see him and Avallac'h's, "No, I was actually just trying to help the world, so cool." And then Geralt's like, "Oh, I guess Eredin was wrong." It's just kind of moved past, you know? But all these ideas were scrapped primarily due to time constraints and the scope of the game getting too big. I mean, you can see it building up with Avallac'h throughout the game, right? You go to his lab, you see him, this mysterious elf, you're kind of wondering what his motivations are, you feel like there's something beneath the surface, but it turns out he was literally just trying to destroy the White Frost and helping Ciri. That was it. There was nothing else, and it feels like they were definitely going for something else. At least that's how I always felt when I played the game. I mean, there was a lot of cut content from The Witcher 3 that I've discussed in the past, and I'd love to talk about again in the future, and just share some more thoughts I've had on it, but that's what we know specifically about how the Wild Hunt's role was originally much greater. The Wild Hunt were always supposed to be the ultimate villains of the Witcher game trilogy, but their role changed over the course of The Witcher 3's development, and they ended up going from having a much larger and more developed role to the smaller and lesser role we see in The Witcher 3. However, I still enjoy these characters for what they are. They're menacing, and the mystery at the start of The Witcher 3 was certainly engaging. The boss fights were fun when considering The Witcher 3 is not meant to be Dark Souls, and the lore behind them was pretty interesting. So I'm not really disappointed about what we got, but I am sad about what we could have gotten, and I would love to hear your thoughts. As I said, there's a lot of other cut content from The Witcher 3 that I'd like to talk about in the future, so let me know what you would like to see, and let me know about any other videos you'd like to see in the future, even just videos with me sharing my opinion on certain aspects of The Witcher 3, 2, 1, anything like that. That would be quite fun to know, so thanks guys, I do appreciate that. Thank you for watching today's video, and I'd appreciate it if you could check out my other channels, Ranger George and Samurai George. Ranger George has a bunch of videos discussing recent news on a variety of fantasy games that I feel like you guys might be quite interested in. You might like those kind of games if you like The Witcher like me, if you guys are my fellow fantasy game lovers. And Samurai George is going to be the new home of my game walkthroughs, You know, I did The Witcher 3 a long time ago on this channel. It's been a long time now, and 2 and 1, and I'd love to do some playthroughs again. I'm planning to do a Witcher 2 playthrough soon on Roach's Path, which is something I never actually did. I just did Eorveth's Path, and there is a possibility that after I finish that, I could go into a Witcher 3 Enhanced Edition playthrough, but it will all be on that channel, so if you want to keep up with that, check out that channel. Check out my other playthroughs, it's fun. You know, I just talk when I'm playing fantasy games and you guys can engage, and it's nice to hear what you guys think about everything. So, remember to like today's video, that's really kind of you guys. Remember to subscribe, and just, yeah, get ready for some more Witcher content coming soon. I'm happy to carry the torch of this as long as I can, and I hope a bunch of other people are doing the same, and let's just keep this community going as well as it can, and let's hope for the best in the next Witcher game, guys. So thank you for watching today's video, thank you for watching everyone, and I will see you all in the next video. Have an awesome rest of the week.